This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Sudan.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, they haven't, it's not like that plan was followed perfectly to a T, but a lot of it sure was. It's like insane that this was just said. And that's not just like if we didn't have such a corrupt press, how do they not talk about that every day?
Every day.
Like, why does that never come up? Oh, it's like, oh, as we fought all of these wars, no one went, but this is exactly what I heard Mr. 4-star General tell me was your plan. And you've never come to the American people and said, this is my plan. You're just like, so, and what's really interesting about it, right, is it just reveals this like the way propaganda works. Because if you think about it, we start fighting the war in Afghanistan. We're in the war in Afghanistan by late 2001. It's not till 2003 we're in Iraq, right? And then it's not till 2010 that we're in Libya. 2012 we're in Syria, you know, and then in Yemen, then in all the, and it's like each time they had their own little propaganda story for why we had to go into this war now. And you're like, no, motherfucker, this was always planned. You decided in 2001 you were doing this. So don't tell me this is because Gaddafi's about to go genocidal, or because Saddam has weapons of mass destruction, or because Bashar al-Assad is killing his own people. It's like, no. This is just your latest little excuse now for the war that you already wanted to do. And that's how this shit really works, man. It's like they decide they want to fight these wars. Then they make up a bullshit excuse that they tell the American people. Then these weapon companies rake in hundreds of billions of dollars in profits, and babies get slaughtered. Like, that's what really happens. Like, innocent men, women, and children die, get exploded to death, starve to death, get displaced. Like, it's just the most evil shit in the world.
And we want to think of ourselves as a good guy.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, welcome to RBN Saturday Live. That was a great clip. And you see more people are waking up to the U.S. war machine. This is why you see more people are independent than ever. More people are rejecting the two-party duopoly than ever. It drives me crazy when you listen to liberal analysis. They would say people don't want Joe Biden to run for office because of his age. And I'm sure there's some people that say that, but that's like the least of my concerns. People see what Biden is doing in Ukraine. People see Biden as another tool of the empire. The only people who don't care about the crimes of the U.S. empire are the people who still vote Republican and Democrat. Because this is where we draw the line to stand. What's popping? Abiding 71. Big shout out to our homie. But this is why I'm not voting in the Dem primary. I'm not going to vote for a Republican or Democrat for office, because both parties are complicit with the Ukraine war. Both want to support the Ukraine war. Both want to go to war with China. And the progressives, the DSA left that is telling you that we should vote Democrat every 2 years. These are the same people who are trying to gaslight people that foreign policy is not an extremely important core principle to hold as a leftist. So if you are supporting the Ukraine war, if you are complicit with votes that directly leads to increased weapon defense contractor profits in never-ending war, and you're supporting and endorsing candidates that do the same thing, that endorsing Zionism, that endorsing militarism, that's something that is a deal breaker for RBN and our family and our friends. But there's a coordinated effort by the establishment, especially by Bernie Sanders and the progressive left, to make foreign policy not that big of a deal. And this is the key difference between us and the boutique left, the NATO left, what I call them. They want to convince us that foreign policy is not a big deal, but foreign policy always come back home. If you are someone of a marginalized community, if you're poor, if you're a worker, if you are a son of immigrants, you know it's only these privileged suburban wine mom leftists that keep trying to tell us that, oh man, Joe Biden, he's not that bad. Yeah, he's a war criminal. Yeah, he doubled down on all Joe Biden's policies. But he's not that big of a deal. He's not that bad. But no, these are deal breakers. Foreign policy always come back home. So you have in the United States, people are being labeled a domestic terrorist because they're protesting against Cop City and other extreme authoritarian actions of the Biden administration and Democrat mayors all over this country. So they are arresting them by using unhinged state violence, using tear gas on them. They also detain them and label them as domestic terrorists. Where does that sound familiar? Where does that sound familiar? That's Guantanamo Bay. That's what Israel does to the Palestinians, labeling people as terrorists, stripping them of their rights. And that is what's happening in our government. It always comes back home. Tear gas is a war crime. You guys understand? It's a war crime to use tear gas, but they use tear gas on their own population all the time. And then the media and the people will justify it, even though the police oftentimes will start it. So it's important. It's extremely important. Not just showing global solidarity for victims of U.S. imperialism, but it's the acknowledgement that all these issues are connected. We always will be impacted, and they will always come back home. That's why the position of the RBN left, we draw a hard no, a hard line against people who repeat talking points about Venezuela. What's poppin', DD? My friend. We gonna roast Juan Guaido. It's been quite some time. Guess who followed? I don't know if she unfollowed him now. I'm sure she did it. But AOC at one point followed Juan Guaido, and she deferred to caucus leadership regarding our blatant coup of Venezuela. Now AOC, now trying to paint herself as the champion of democracy now. Even though when it came to the Trump administration, teamed up with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, also with Bolsonaro, who was sending death squads into Venezuela as well. You had the right-wing president of Colombia that was extremely anti-Venezuela. That's why they're melting down to the new left-wing president of Colombia, because he's not going along with it. Lula's not going along with the demonization of Venezuela. These are giant deals, because the West has done that for quite some time, and this was backed up by AOC and the squad. They brought Juan Guaido, someone who the Venezuelan people hate, by the way. I'm going to show you guys some funny footage. Because now MSNBC or CNN, I think they're CNN, it's the same fucking shit at the end of the day. CNN, they blaming him. They blaming Juan Guaido, like, why haven't you successfully overthrown the Venezuelan people? Because Venezuela is another example of how United States sanctions fail. Because they put sanctions on Venezuela, and John Bolton and the Trump administration was very open. You got Blinken and others that's very open about the strategy here of crippling the economy, making people turn against Maduro. But people are smarter than that. So when they put these sanctions on people, the only thing that happens is they rally behind their leader, because they know that there are Western imperialist capitalist forces behind the scenes that's crippling his economy. And then there's someone like Juan Guaido come out, this class traitor, because that is what Nicolas Maduro's opposition is. Just like Brazil, when you look at the opposition in Venezuela, it's the white-skinned, upper-class bourgeoisie, and that's exactly who Juan Guaido represents. So he comes in, gets propped up by the United States, so he's immediately rejected by the people. He had to have security, and when he does not have security, he gets his ass beat, like he did when he was at a restaurant last year. So because of this massive failure of the West and Juan Guaido to implement this coup, there's the famous coup attempt in the Trump administration where the people who tried to kill and assassinate Nicolas Maduro, they lost a battle to some farmers, and a few of them pissed their pants as well. It was hilarious. One of the many failed assassination attempts on Maduro. And that's why I'm gonna say this: like, Maduro is not perfect, but I've explained this many times. Maduro, the way he has navigated Western aggression has been incredible to see, and it's been very expertly done, because his policy has been we cannot retaliate. We gotta continue to take the high ground because we're gonna outlast them. The Western sanctions not gonna last. People know the West is trying to overthrow me. They're being very obvious about it. So we can't fly off a handle. We can't do anything crazy. And that's why Maduro and many Venezuelans, they just took it. They just took the Western aggression, but that paid off in the long term because the sanctions rallied the people behind Maduro. And that's why the Venezuela opposition party and Juan Guaido is a joke in that country. So Juan Guaido, that's a long segment to get into, but I'm gonna show you guys the Western media acknowledging this. Yeah, this is MSNBC. I forgot if this was. It's the same fucking thing, man. Like if you watch MSNBC, CNN, they repeat the same fucking talking points. So what's popping, people? I apologize for last stream, the stream last night. I know I missed a few super chats. I apologize for that. We was 2 hours long. I completely missed out on that. So I apologize. I'll make sure I get to them today. We got a lot to cover. Not only am I'm gonna break down this Juan Guaido interview, and I see quite a few of you guys are interested in this story. There's a lot of cover on this. I mean, like this guy's a clown. But we're also gonna cover Jen Psaki doing another unapologetic state TV segment. They're also saying, I'll see if I get some time to get to it, where Li Fang exposes the Ukraine FBI corruption. So we're going to get to his article where the FBI was working with the Ukrainian government to label media and social media as disinformation to show how desperate the West is. So let's I'll pull this video up. And then also the video I saw on Twitter. Yeah, it's very important to cover this one. You got the Gen Z kids that put out this bullshit video on Twitter. And then Elon Musk and the new Twitter, they put a note on it to show how they was funded by the Democratic Party because this is the new propaganda op that Biden administration about to run on us. The same thing they accused Russia of doing, they about to do. They about to pay young TikTok people. They about to pay all these social media influencers to spread shit-lib propaganda. So this election is about to be hell. This election about to be hell. So let's get into the first video. This is Juan Guaido. Let me make this bigger. This is MSNBC propaganda on Venezuela. It's always important to watch these because it shows you the actions of the empire, what the propaganda they want approved on the people. It shows the mindset of the Biden administration, the commander-in-chief, and the executive branch. So when the United States and the West started this trade war against Russia and China that they could not win, and they completely failed at this trade war that they wanted to win against Russia, they tried to improve relationships with Nicolas Maduro. And we covered this last year. That fell apart because Nicolas Maduro not going along with the Ukraine war, very friendly with the Colombian left-wing president, who's very favorable and been speaking out against. He been with AMLO, been speaking out against. Like when Biden had the Summit of Americas, they was one of the countries that resisted that because they was refused the invitation. So you can see the West. Their next step is that they want to escalate against Venezuela some more. The West is desperate because they fall behind on China. As China pursue peace, they pursue war. Since they can't bring Nicolas Maduro down to heel, since they can't sanction the country to death, since Juan Guaido failed, they're going to continue their aggression. So that's why they bring him back on after abandoning him for quite some time. You got to know that Juan Guaido was in Colombia and he was deported from Colombia. I'll see if I can pull that up. Colombia. Yeah, I'll pull that up. Actually, I'll play the video first. I'll pull it up because Gustavo Petro in the Colombian government, once again, they're not as far left as we want them to be, but it's very significant that Gustavo Petro do not fall for the Western bullshit on Venezuela. So he was just deported from Colombia. They don't want anything to do with this fucking fascist. Like everything they accuse January 6th Trump supporters of being, that is what Juan Guaido is. They literally tried to overthrow the government of Nicolas Maduro. And then they said, they accused Trump and the Republican Party of weaponizing government. The Republican Party criticized the Democrats of weaponizing government. You had someone that tried to kill Nicolas Maduro in the opposition party. And what would happen if someone tried to kill Joe Biden? They would be sent to prison. So the opposition party planned an assassination. Maduro sent them to prison. And then he said, oh my God, he's a tyrant. Meanwhile, the Democratic Party is charging Trump for a misdemeanor for paying a porn star. Y'all see the difference here? If Maduro, if AMLO, or if any country in the global south or any U.S. adversary tried to charge their opposition the way the liberal class is charging Trump, they would use that as justification for a coup. So weaponized hypocrisy is corruption, and we must call that out. So let's play this video. You're going to see the Western media blames Guaido. Let's get into it.
Joining us now is Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido. Mr. Guaido, thank you very much for being with us today. Mr. Guaido, when we last spoke in 2019, you had just been recognized as the interim president of Venezuela by the United States and 56 other countries. Today, you're in the United States after having been threatened by Colombia when you tried to participate in a conference there. What happened?
Basically, the Colombian government threatened me with deportation and surrendered me to Maduro's hands. I'm here thanks to the mission of the American government to guarantee.
So this is why what happened in South America is so exciting, with Gustavo Petro winning, with Lula in Brazil winning, who's not going along with this nonsense either. AMLO, who he boycotted the Summit of Americas because the Biden administration wouldn't invite Venezuela. That's how hard he's going on this. Guaido is losing a ton of influence, and that's why he was kicked out of Colombia. So after this part, you're going to see where the host blames Guaido for not individually by himself overthrowing Nicolas Maduro and the Venezuela government. This is hilarious. I'll let it play here for a bit.
Guarantee my safety. I felt prosecuted.
You said you were threatened by Colombia. What does that mean?
The threat was direct, to be deported to Venezuela, where evidently I left the country walking through the border because of the
because you're a criminal
persecution of Maduro's dictatorship.
Mr. Guaido, during your time as interim president, you had oversight over Citgo and PDVSA, humanitarian assistance, and so much more. You had embassies around the world. A group called Politically Persecuted Venezuelans in Exile here in Miami say that you, quote, had an opportunity to do much and in the end did very little. How do you...
you guys see? So I explained to you guys before the tactical error that the Biden administration, the Obama administration, and the Trump and Bolton White House made by putting heavy sanctions on Maduro. They realize that Juan Guaido is in cahoots with the enemy. That only makes him more unpopular. So now they're blaming him for their failed policy. So Juan Guaido, the funniest thing Trump ever said, Juan Guaido is like the Pete Buttigieg of Venezuela. So he did fail in epic fashion, and we should never forget to mock and clown this guy because he's a criminal that tried to overthrow the government the same way they accuse Trump supporters of doing, right? But even though we laugh at him, you got to admit, this man had a tall task. The United States really set this man up. Their plan was to just announce him as interim president. They thought the global community would bow down. They thought the sanctions would destroy the Venezuelan pride and sovereignty, and they would just anoint this guy as leader. And that is not what happened. I'm going to show you guys him being attacked. There was videos of him walking in the airport. There's no fanfare. No one in Venezuela knows this guy. The people who do know him, they don't like him. And this is why this story is so glorious, because it was such a massive fail by the United States empire in a failed coup attempt. And now they're going for it again as evidence that the fact they have this guy on the show they have him back on the show. And you're going to see in this segment, I'm going to play that part again, where he blames Guaido.
Citgo and PDVSA, humanitarian assistance, and so much more. You had embassies around the world. A group called Politically Persecuted Venezuelans in Exile here in Miami say that you, quote, had an opportunity to do much and in the end did very little. How do you respond to that?
The opportunity for democracy remains in Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela. We must continue fighting. We have resisted a regime that has been linked to crimes against humanity, that has direct ties to Putin. Lavrov was in Venezuela just a week ago. We have resisted those that are connected to drug trafficking, terrorism. We all must be held accountable for our actions. This is a moment for the international.
You guys see, he just repeating Western smears. He said that Nicolas Maduro has ties to Russia. That's his crime. They said Nicolas Maduro met with Putin. That's his crime. How dare you engage in diplomacy that is good for your country? That is what they accuse this guy of. Well, he also said Nicolas Maduro, who had ties to the cartels, another conspiracy theory that was drummed up by the Pentagon. And let me tell you guys something. You want to know who has more ties to the cartels? The CIA, the military-industrial complex. Don't ask the United States military what they were doing in Afghanistan. I think it was like the opium farms. It was the biggest drug smugglers in the world is the CIA and the military-industrial complex. But they just float this conspiracy theory that Nicolas Maduro is tied to cartels. Not saying it's impossible, but I'm telling you guys right now, they never produce evidence. They just repeat it. This lie repeat it. And it's going to go unchallenged because the West is pissed at Maduro because they're losing more influence in the region. And Nicolas Maduro been thrown aside, and now he has more support than ever. It was really bad during the Trump administration, especially when you had Bolsonaro sending military death squads in Venezuela, being Trump's bootlicker in the region, right? Now you have Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, Colombia, all these giant countries, Brazil as well, all these giant countries that said enough is enough. Enough is enough. So now they're going to blame them some more. So I'm going to go back so you guys hear that part again. I'll let it play some more.
Was in Venezuela just a week ago. We have resisted those that are connected to drug trafficking, terrorism. We all must be held accountable for our actions. This is a moment for the international community to do more on behalf of democracy, to do more for those in the resistance movement, not just in Venezuela.
So they condemn Putin for invading Ukraine, but this psychopath, Juan Guaido, is calling for Western countries to invade Venezuela and to violently overthrow the Nicolas Maduro government. That is what they're advocating for. But they want to tell us about rules-based Western order? Look at these psychopaths.
Also in Cuba, Nicaragua, and yes, still have an open task and a response.
Let me hear that part again, because he said, hold up, I'll hear that part again.
The resistance movement, not just in Venezuela, but also in Cuba, Nicaragua, and yes, still have an open task and a responsibility regarding democracy.
Bro, this man is insane, son. You guys hear what he said? He said not only should we invade and violently overthrow Nicolas Maduro, we need to do it to Nicaragua and Cuba as well. Because Nicaragua's government rebuked CIA mailing in their election, and they support their Sandinista leftist government. So Juan Guaido is not only a puppet of the United States for Venezuela, he's calling for the return of Operation Condor, the United States dominance in the Southern Hemisphere, in South America. This is insanity. This is the person that AOC follows. This is the person that was invited at the State of the Union by Nancy Pelosi. This guy is a fascist thug of the highest order. And the fact that Nicolas Maduro didn't put a bullet in his head and put him in prison, it shows how much mercy they have. This is wild, man.
Did you misuse that you had options of? Did you not take advantage of all of the things, the 56 countries plus the United States, the humanitarian aid, the embassies, did you misuse that?
Nosotros utilizamos todas las herramientas a disposición para enfrentar y poder derrotar al régimen de Maduro.
We used all the tools at our disposal to face and defeat the regime. We need much more. We have seen it in Nicaragua, in Belarus, in Ukraine. The international community has to be tougher. The tools that we have to confront dictatorships, like the sanctions, have to be exercised with strength, have to hold this dictatorship accountable and innovate and go further.
You have seen.
You guys see how crazy? Like, this guy is a danger to peace. He is saying that the West, which we cover every day, the West is unhinged, ran by war criminals, that is 100% okay with tanking Western civilization in pursuit of their war path, right? So what Juan Guaido is saying, he mentioned Ukraine as well. He said the West is being too weak. Huh? After what Bolton and Obama did in Venezuela. They're funding Nazis in Ukraine. There's U.S. soldiers in Ukraine. They escalated in Taiwan. There's a genocide going on against the Palestinian people. It took China to end the Yemen war that the United States funded. So the United States and the West is crazy and unhinged. But Juan Guaido, just like Hillary Clinton, was like, man, you guys are still some pussies. You guys can go harder than that. What? He criticizing the West for being too weak. And that's the premise of this segment. The title of this video is Democratic Countries Must Help Venezuela to End Maduro Dictatorship. So they're not doing enough. We need more militarism. Insanity. Let's continue the video. I still have some more receipts on too.
Close allies, friends, colleagues detained, kidnapped, tortured, and even killed. Your wife and your two little daughters, 1-year-old and 5-year-old, are still in Venezuela. Do you fear for them?
Sí, estoy muy preocupado.
Yes, I'm really worried, not just for them, but also the 300 political prisoners. But right now, I'm just thinking about Miranda and...
So by political prisoners, he's talking about the people who try to assassinate and kill Nicolas Maduro and try to violently overthrow the government. You mean the thing that the Democratic Party is doing to the January 6th protesters? You mean the protesters that didn't have guns? That weak fuck protest they call January 6th, compared to the assassination attempts on Maduro and the Cuban government all the time? On Fidel Castro? Venezuela is weak compared to the United States. You guys understand? If you look at what the opposition party in Venezuela, people about what Juan Guaido has done, the United States is charging the January 6th protesters for jokes. And they did half of what the opposition party did. They're because of the death penalty from people on the left for these people. So let's continue.
Merida, my 2 babies that are under threat in Caracas. I think about their safety. I hope to keep them protected while under the threat of the Maduro regime.
Hablas de amenazas. You speak of threats. What kind of threats have they received?
Una llamada directa.
Phone calls to Fabiana where they told them in Spanish that they were going to be screwed. They were going to be harmed. Also, in that call that Fabiana received on Monday, they told them about how I was going to be deported from Colombia to Venezuela.
Under this regime in Venezuela, more than 7 million people have been forced to leave the country in which they were born, and that's just in the last 8 years. Other than Syrians, Venezuelans make up the biggest group of people forced to leave their countries on earth. More than 500,000 Venezuelans have come here to the United States, many, no doubt, on their way through the Darien jungles and more. What's your message to the President of the United States, to the members of Congress that represent the American people?
Que tenemos que seguir presionando para salir de una dictadura.
That we have to keep pressuring to get rid of the dictatorship. We have to stop the flow of migration. Definitely the only way we can accomplish that is through democracy. On Wednesday, I'll be in Washington. meeting with Senator Dick Durbin, and also with members of Congress. We need to continue pressuring the dictatorship.
Would you like to meet with President Biden?
We are going to be with the executive.
Have you asked to meet with President Biden?
We have asked to meet with the executive and with the State Department, and we are sure, as we feel today, that the government of the United States has dealt with democracy really well, very different from what happened.
So they're like, hey, do you got enough clout to get an interview with Biden? He's like, oh, what happened was he probably missed my message. I called him back the other day. But he was like, no, but do you have a meeting? Did Biden administration reach out to you? They texted me that one time. This guy has no legitimacy on the world stage. Even the United States government knows this guy is not doing anything in Venezuela. And I'm going to show you why here soon.
In Colombia, there is a huge contrast between the treatment of the United States and that of Colombia, evidently.
Colombia has a new president. Colombia actually is one of the countries that recognize your interim presidency. But now with this new president, is Colombia now different?
Today, Colombia is now closer to Maduro than to democracy.
Giant L, sir. Giant L. It's almost like when there's a left-leaning candidate in Latin America in current politics, and they're running on resisting the Western narrative on Venezuela, they win. Once again, Gustavo Petro is more of a social democrat, but that position is huge on the global stage. And that's a giant L for Juan Guaido, just like Lula winning in the most geopolitically significant country in South America, Brazil, is another giant L. Take those L's, boy.
See you in Venezuela.
Juan Guaido, thank you very much for being with us. Appreciate it.
So I'm gonna show you guys. This is the video. This is the story from Colombia. But you see the questioning from the reporter, like, man, you had all the support. There was the displaced Venezuelan people, pretty much the class traders, just like the Cuban class traders that support Western imperialism. Like, if you ask these people, like the disinfected Venezuelan people, like many of them, they're like, what is your solution to the problem? Do you want to lift Venezuelan sanctions? If you ask Guaido and his supporters, they will say, no, we shouldn't lift sanctions. And that's why they're not popular. So you care about the Venezuelan people, but you don't want to get rid of the sanctions that's crippled your economy. You don't give a fuck about the Venezuelan people. You just Western puppets. The same with the Cuban people. You ask Cuban class traders in Florida, what do you think about the Cuban blockade? Should they lift it? I did a story a long time ago where they were like, no, we should keep the Cuban blockade. But you think you care about the Cuban people, but you're arguing for the Cuban blockade. Clown ass shit. Here's the result of Gustavo Petro winning. Venezuelan opposition leader Guaido expelled from Venezuela. Guaido said he was expelled hours after he arrived. They said he arrived irregularly. I look at this receipt here as well. And look, he went back to Miami. This is the safe haven for U.S. imperialist scum. You have Bolsonaro that's in Miami, hanging out with all the class traders, right? And look at this Kabate. Juan Guaido arrives in Miami after fleeing to Colombia and being promptly deported by the Colombian government. No red carpet or fanfare. The jig is up. So this man, like, this is the working class hero of Venezuela. Thank you for the super chat, man. Smoking L for Guaido. Giant L for my boy. Very unfortunate. Now that's the walk of shame. The same walk of shame that Bolsonaro gave recently. So this video shows the immense popularity of Juan Guaido. This boy really thought he could show his face in public. like, you better take your ass home, boy. You better go back to the United States, you puppet. This is the classic L picture by Juan Guaido. So this massive failure is why they're on MSNBC. That's why, like, how can you fucking drop the ball when the West was behind you? You had the Venezuela disaffected people, that group that came out and condemned Guaido. You had the Biden administration that's ghosting Guaido. They invite him to the State of Union address, and now they can't even get a meeting with them. They just supposed to have an interview. Because this boy does nothing but take L's nowadays. This Anthony Blinken giving him condolences for that giant L. This is this is June of 2002. For the second time in many weeks. Interim president, and strong emphasis on the quote-unquote interim president, Juan Guaido was attacked in Venezuela. The United States is deeply concerned and condemns these escalating acts of violence, harassment, and intimidation against the interim president Guaido and all those who stand for democracy. Do you guys understand how fucking clown? These liberals are the biggest clowns, man. This is the same thing they accused Trump supporters of doing. Imagine, who's that fucking January 6th guy? Keanu Shaman? What was his name? Keanu Shaman. Jacob Chesley. Oh man, here it is. Oh, let me show you guys this. Imagine if this guy was like, man, fuck this election, bro. I am the president. And then he get prosecuted, like he's currently being prosecuted now for doing way less than that. And then China or Russia was like, oh my God, the West is so authoritarian. How dare you charge this patriot who have the balls to challenge your democracy? That is what they're saying, fam. You guys realize that? I mean, I guess technically they will be calling for Trump to be president and they will be going after him like they are. But this guy is about the same legitimacy as Juan Guaido, as far as I'm concerned, because at least Trump got tens of millions of Republican votes. Boy, Juan Guaido won 0 elections. So as far as I'm concerned, Juan Guaido is closer to this guy than it is Trump to me. Let me read this chat here. You might be correcting me. Big shout. I think I saw you join as a member. Big shout out to Eliza. Yes, Nick. Kuan Shaman. Oh man, they had to release them after Tucker's expose. What, fam? The QAnon. Wait, hold up. I gotta look that up. QAnon Shaman. That's a tough one. Tucker. I'm gonna Google that, dude. That's crazy. I see some links to it. There's some people disputing it, but we see. But it's still funny though. I see this, and we gotta take this with a grain of salt. I see this. It's all liberal bullshit, man. Google is so controlled, and I'm not saying the right wing is right on this, but when you look at the results here, it's all like prosecutors say Tucker omitted key January 6th footage. Look, early release of QAnon Shaman due to plea and prison protocols, contrary to online claims. So he was early. I didn't know he was even released, guys. So he was released, but they say it's because it was the plea and prison protocols. So he probably doing some legal shit to him. This man was sentenced to 41 months in prison for cosplaying. This man was cosplaying, and they gave this man 41 months. Meanwhile, they say Maduro's a tyrant for prosecuting people who try to kill him. Juan Guaido is still a free man. And he's scared to go back to Venezuela, and he should. I see people saying CIA plant. Definitely a good chance. And I heard that January 6th was heavily, there were a lot of feds there. You know what I mean? That was highly exposed as well. Try to make sure I didn't miss in the super chat. Thank you for $2, Marvin Vargas. Funny stream, love it, Nick. Good job. U.S. puppet, Juan Guaido. Absolutely, that's Juan Guaido. It's been a while since I had a chance to rip on this guy. It's always funny when I do. But we almost done. Where was I? I was showing. Yeah, we're almost done with this segment. Anthony Blinken was calling out his harassment. So I think the next segment we're gonna do is gonna be the Jen Psaki and State TV. Jen Psaki, I told you guys, she's gonna put on absolute masterclass performances on corporate media, and she's the direct link from the Biden administration. Came directly from the Biden administration, and now she has this highly produced giant show on MSNBC that all the liberals love. They all retweet and everything. We just did a breakdown of the AOC video because AOC and Jen Psaki are homegirls apparently. But I cannot drive this fact home. I cannot drive this point home enough. Why is there not more criticism of the fact that you have former government officials that easily transition to media jobs, and then they do the same, and not like they change and become adversarial. Jen Psaki got a show where she does unapologetic pro-Biden, pro-Democrat propaganda. How is that something that we just accept? How people consider other countries like China or Russia to be more propagandized when you have these shows? I'm gonna get right to the videos. This is one of them. There's another video thread I want to get through. Actually, I want to show this one. I'll show this one first. Let's do this one first. Because this is the video Glenn highlights. You had Simone Sanders talking to this press secretary, and look how it's pretty much essentially just Access TV. And then we get to the Simone Sanders part as well after this. But let's get into this.
So let's just be honest. Okay, you're not always going to get a straight answer from the podium in the briefing room. If you are traveling with the president or the vice president, you're not going to always get a straight answer from the president or vice president. Heck, I used to be one of the people helping people craft maybe some not so straight answers.
Simone Sanders, host on MSNBC, so-called neutral news, just admitted how, yeah, I was a propagandist for the government, and you cannot expect your government to tell you the truth. They are so arrogant now that people are going to fall for the lesser two evil nonsense. They are just openly corrupt. Just openly. You want to see that part again? She explained how the government lies to you. You should accept it. And yeah, that was my old job before. Just nonchalantly.
So let's just be honest. Okay, you're not always going to get a straight answer from the podium in the briefing room. If you are traveling with the president or the vice president, you're not going to always get a straight answer from the president or vice president. Heck, I used to be one of the people helping people craft maybe some not so straight answers. So how do you balance?
So that's lying. I crafted some not so straight answers. The euphemisms these people have for being a lying, corrupt scumbag is incredible to me. Absolutely incredible. Let's continue.
Straight answers. So how do you balance the fact that these are folks you have to continue to work with, right? Asking the tough questions, but also not necessarily being confrontational.
So once again, these are White House correspondents, the approved correspondents. And I'm going to keep that in mind because the people who are not approved are the ones who are not called on. The people who the Biden administration tried to ruin the African reporter's career for calling them out. But listen to this unbelievable state government corruption nonsense that about come out of her mouth.
Well, I think that's exactly the point. You're not supposed to inherently be confrontational, nor is a relationship supposed to be adversarial.
What? Fam, this is a quote-unquote White House reporter. These are the approved journalists. And you know how people consider me just working class trash. I'm not a real journalist because I didn't go through the right schools, right? This is the approved journalist. I'm sure she got amazing education and credentials. I'm sure she came from an amazing family. She has this White House reporting job, which is the top, like you're on top of your class, the top of your profession when you're in the White House asking them questions. You had the press room. And her ideology, the ideology that got her there was, we are not here to be adversarial, oppositional. Yes, you are. If you're not, you're useless. They accepted their position as just stenographers for the government. Let's play a part again. Like, she just openly admits, like, yeah, we're not here to be mean to them.
Inherently be confrontational. I think that's exactly the point. You're not supposed to inherently be confrontational, nor is a relationship supposed to be adversarial. I think what everyone has to understand is that we as journalists are doing our jobs in trying to keep the public informed. And then those who are working at the White House, of course, are doing their jobs as aides, as spokespeople, trying to stay on message and control the narrative. But at the end of the day, as a journalist, you are the arbiter of truth. And so you don't simply take what's said at the podium and publish it without applying any scrutiny, without fact checking it, without sharing some context for the public.
We show you guys videos of the White House press briefings before. You want to know their example of holding Biden accountable? Why aren't you sending more weapons to Ukraine? Why aren't you doing more right-wing shit? And she explains how she's like, yeah, the government here, the government gonna lie to you. They're gonna craft their own narrative. They're gonna bullshit you, right? They're gonna do their thing. Not a big deal. But we are the arbiters of truth. Look at the elitist mindset of this person. And this is why they run propaganda on stuff like the Ukraine war. This is why they're all Zionists. Because they're here to be the arbiter of truth, here to tell you what to think. That was Mika Brzezinski, Morning Joe, famously said, their job is to tell you what to think. So the government that come out with a statement, they're here to weed out the statement with what they want you to know, and then program you and propagandize you into thinking of stuff that is pro-empire, that is pro their donors. State media of the highest order.
Public about why it matters, why they should care. And I think that's why people sometimes don't fully understand the value of sitting there in that chair at the briefing, because that is the opportunity to push back, to ask questions, and to really peel back the curtain, not just on what everyone is seeing on TV from the White House podium, but also what's happening behind the scenes. Who's making decisions? Why are decisions being made? You know, if there's any misconduct, how is that being investigated? That's a lot of what comes with being a White House reporter, where you're not just holding any institution to account or people in positions of power accountable. This is the highest office in the land. And so it's very important for the public to have an accurate depiction of what's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and to also know why it matters.
Meanwhile, we're not going to say anything about the Nord Stream pipeline bombing. I'm not going to say anything about the prosecution of Julian Assange. You guys should be asking these questions every day, but you do not. So that is nonsense. That is just bullshit. And this is what they posted on their channel. This is what Glenn says. Glenn said, I don't think I ever heard a journalist admit before that they don't think their job is to be adversarial with White House officials and the president. But as I've said about NBC News allowing its reporters like Ben Collins to be explicit Democrats, the more candor, the better. So this is the next video I want to get to. But I also want to get to the African reporter. And so I hope I can find it, because I know I had one of these. Here it is. So you guys see the mindset of the person who is approved by the establishment, right? So let me show you this before we get to the next video. Washington Post is a trash website, man. But when you have someone who's adversarial to the Biden administration, like this African reporter, I want to get his name. I'm not great with names. Let's see. Simon Ateba, I believe. Let's play this video. This is a 30-second video. I'm interjecting this because this is what happens when you actually hold the Biden White House accountable. Not only are you censored, they go after your revenue, and the press corps, led by that person who was giving the interview with Simone Sanders, they would attack you for holding the government accountable. Let's watch it. I haven't seen this, but let's watch this. Let's see what it says.
The formula.
Simon, please stop.
I understand, but
Simon,
for 15
please
months,
show to the chat. On the formula.
and I'm saying that for the sake of equity, we should
First of all,
have
thank you for your service, and thank you for your husband for his service as well.
Oh my God. This fucking reporter looked at Jen Psaki and was like, thank you for your service. Jen Psaki's job was to be a professional liar for the government. You guys understand? But you got reporters who was gaslighting on MSNBC, was like, our job is to hold him accountable. But this is them saying, we apologize for this guy actually trying to hold you accountable. Don't worry, girl boss. You're the best. You the queen. You killing it, queen. We love you. Right? Thank you for your service. Thank you for the $2, Marvin. Jose Vega needs to be in the White House press room. We need to get Rome in the White House press room. In a sane universe, Rome and Jose will have a White House press briefing pass, and it will be illegal for them to silence them if they don't have at least a significant. You gotta have at least a minute to speak. At least you gotta give them at least 2 questions to press conference. There gotta be some sort of guidelines there. That would be great, but we don't live like there was no way. Even if they was there, they were like never calling that motherfucker, just like Simon. So let's play that back. That's crazy, man. There's only a short clip, and I'll get back
on the issue of the formula.
Simon,
please stop.
I understand, but
Simon,
for 15
please show
months,
to the chat. On the formula.
and I'm saying that for the sake of equity, we should
First of all,
have
thank you for your service, and thank you for your husband for his service as well. On the issue of formula, I think if anything, this crisis is
So I remember this because this was Jen Psaki's last press briefing, and then this guy was like, all right, since this is the last time I'm gonna see you, I'm gonna go off. So they should be backing him up. Why aren't you upset that he's not being called on? You got the liberal government silencing an African reporter, but people want me to think that they're the party that I should vote for or support because they're better on race issues. Get the fuck out of here with this like clown shit, guys.
Simon, if you could respect your colleagues and other media and reporters in here, that would be greatly appreciated. Go ahead, Mary.
But they're not going to respect him, though.
Sir, please, if anything, this is reminded, I think, the entire country and the world that this is not a luxury item, but an essential. Thank you. Formula is not a luxury item. It is an essential. It is something that families.
So that what happens if you're not a good reporter. Let's play this last clip. Caleb Maupin is harassing a Korean org lady. Cringe. I have not been following what's been going on with Caleb Maupin for quite some time. That's kind of cringe. But thank you for the super chat. Where's the? Here it is. I gotta share the screen. We get into this video and we get into the last topic of the day. Here we go.
What was your best day with the White House correspondence?
So this is quote unquote serious reporting in media. You have someone who was just a government mouthpiece for Joe Biden and someone who used to be a government mouthpiece for Joe Biden interviewing each other on a quote unquote neutral cable program. That's what Democrats will have you believe. How is Russia or China worse than this? And you guys want to see you see what I'm talking about when I play the video. Let's get into it.
It's association.
You know, I will say the majority of the time they were really incredible partners because when we were navigating COVID, even though that was some of the hardest times, it was also some of the most collaborative times. I mean, when I was the press secretary, Zeke Miller from the Associated Press at the time was the president. Long may he reign, I used to say, even after he was no longer the president. And we had to navigate through a very difficult time in history, a time where we wanted to return access to the press, show value and respect for the media, but also do it in a way that was keeping people safe. They're also very important and valuable partners when there are foreign trips. I mean, you know this, when you're going to a war zone, you do go to the Correspondents Association and you say, hey, we're going to go to Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere that is a challenging security place to be. I need to work with you on how we create a press pool for that.
Yeah. What was
So this is the person that liberals believe this amazing girl boss. This is the person who is now the anchor of one of the most hyped shows. And I'm talking about among the boutique blue check shit lives. Like they go crazy. She trend all the time onto it. They love the show. AOC was on her show, so the NATO boutique love gives her credibility. This is the person they propping up.
Maduro last night went on the air and said that they'd arrested multiple people who were allegedly behind a coup that was backed by the United States. What is your response?
These latest accusations, like all previous such accusations, are ludicrous. As a matter of longstanding policy, the United States does not support political transitions by non-constitutional means. Political transitions must be democratic, constitutional, peaceful, and legal.
The U.S. has whoa. The U.S. has a long-standing practice of not promoting. What did you say? How long-standing is that? In particular, in South and Latin America, that is not a long-standing practice.
The person that can lie without shame like that and say that the United States never get involved in elections, that's the kind of person that is elevated to her position. That's the only way it's possible. So I have I think we can wrap Jen Psaki there because that video says everything about Jen Psaki. One last video I'm gonna show you guys because you have the United States government that is spying on us, they expand the police state. You have Biden that is using taxpayer money and making a program to propagandize us. Not only that, they are planning to meet up and have White House briefing with TikTokers. They already was caught having briefings with very influential social media people. So with this upcoming election, we are going to be prepared to go to war with these people pushing for war criminals. Like you have people like way bigger platforms than us, like people like Hassan who was endorsing Gavin Newsom, right? Vosh and the boutique left, they all going to support Joe Biden, even though he expanded on all of Trump's worst policies, expanded the border industrial complex. He's plunging us to nuclear war. He has been a horrific president. But what's so amazing about this video here is this is one of the groups that's going to be part of this propaganda push by the Biden administration. And you had Elon Musk that put notes on this video because these people are funded by the Democratic Party to the tunes of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So as they call Russia and China insane propagandized countries, you have our government and our major political parties that is funding these propaganda campaigns that is spreading on TikTok. And I must say, it's extremely cringe.
What the Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you. You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools. And if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken. What the Republican...
Why are you flexing at the end? For one, everything they accused Republicans of doing, I mean, the exact same thing that's happening with Biden and the Democratic Party. They're talking about climate. Who approved the Willow Project? Who's spending fracking programs? Who's spending the DHS and the police budgets? Who's spending the military budget? We're the largest polluter in the world. So, and then they start the video. Look how they start the video.
The Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you. You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid. You say we're dumb. You say we're indoctrinated.
You guys are indoctrinated. These are the most indoctrinated people on the planet. But also, y'all remember, these people are getting paid. Can you imagine being 20 years old, making the kind of money these suburban fucking beta fucking rich kids are making, right? And I do want to be clear. I want to be 100%. I'm having fun. Not all Gen Z is like this. I do agree with you guys. I'm having fun. I am making a point that there's these Gen Z funded propaganda campaigns that are going on Twitter. The Gen Z Democrats, especially the giant social media people you see, are 100% Democrat funded. We all know that Gen Z is leading the way on socialism. Gen Z is leading the way in terms of being anti-two-party duopoly. But I'll show you guys the mindset of a Gen Z sellout Democrat. And this is the propaganda campaign that you're going to see TYT and Washington repeating this soon. Well, you want to see them accuse everything they accuse Trump and the Republican Party is doing. It applies to Democrats.
I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party.
But we're not watching the crimes of the Biden administration. The Biden administration that funded DHS literally $7 million more than Trump. ICE more than Trump. They expanded Title 42. All the things you guys claim to care about, Biden is doing, and you guys sold out your principles. But these are the youth that, remember, AOC said she's very optimistic about the youth because they're just people like these people are Democratic shills. Let's continue.
Extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools, and if they think they can give...
You guys are doing nothing about that either. I'm a Marxist. I am pro-gun. But when you look at like universal background checks and all this stuff, these are things that most Americans support. My question is, because I watch liberals talk about this issue, and I'm like, how unserious are you guys? Like, you have Democrats, they will say stuff like this. They will say, we should increase the age. Sorry, we should increase the age of people that can buy guns from 18 to 21. That's how we're gonna solve gun violence. What's stopping someone older than that than just getting a gun and killing people? You guys realize that's their argument. We're gonna put extended background checks. Okay, what's stopping a criminal from getting a gun illegally? Not a goddamn thing. We already flooded with a black market of guns. All their solutions, and liberals get upset about us Marxists in our gun position because you're not gonna disarm me before you disarm the police, before you disarm our military. You gotta do that first before you disarm the black community, point blank, period. Right? We're not gonna allow ourselves to be disarmed. But if you even take the Democratic Party position, that position does nothing to end gun violence. If you actually listen to their proposals, they said we are going to end gun violence. We're going to increase the age to buy guns to 21. We're going to have increased background checks that anyone with money can pass. And mostly just a poverty check. How are these things going to stop a psychopath who get a gun illegally and shooting your school up? It's not. So everything they said of the Republicans applies to the Democrats. That's what anyone who can rationally think would say. So you had this. I'm gonna show you guys this last receipt. Then we'll be done. This is what Joe Biden used to say. And it's crazy how Bernie Sanders endorsing this guy and Gen Z, Sunrise Movement endorsed him, Black Lives Matter, all these sellout groups. When I saw this quote years ago, I was like, man, it's over for this man. It's over for this man. But this is when Biden was like, man, he talking to young people, told them to give me a break. This is not the best. This is not the best quote. Let's see if I find Biden one. Biden, give me a break. I want to see if I can find a video. This is just the audio. Is there a video here? I think this article may be better. Here it is. Biden on young people complaining they have it tough. Give me a break. Oh, damn, I really wish I could find the video. Oh, well. You guys know this is the classic. The younger generation now tells me how tough things are. Give me a break. No, I have no empathy for it. Give me a break. This is the guy that Gen Z Democrats, and not only them, I know those people that we covered are clowns, but this is the DSA, the youth wing of the Democratic Party. They support this as well. I remember this as soon as he said his statement, I'm like, man, this guy's toast. I couldn't imagine I couldn't possibly imagine Gen Z people falling for this. But that's the rise of Vosh and Hassan. I said it on Twitter before, where I'm like, man, I knew we fell for a lot of dumb shit, but Gen Z listen to people like Vosh and Hassan, who has 100 times more viewers than we have. And they tell people that they should vote for the Democratic Party. And they're going to do that again. You had Hassan to sheep her people to Gavin Newsom. They're going to be prepared to do it this time. So I think it was a very complicated, very successful psyop where they saw how radical the younger generations were getting. So this guy Vosh comes out nowhere. Comes out of fucking nowhere. Right when people were starting to leave the Democratic Party, then you get Hassan Piker come out nowhere. Vosh nowhere, get thousands of views every live stream, like 20,000 views plus every live stream, and they telling people to vote Democrat. You got the rise of the Twitch streamer, the rise of Destiny, the rise of all these Democrat fucking ops on the platforms that the youth watch. Like I had to get caught up because I wasn't part of the generation. Like I barely watched TikTok. I had to learn how to operate Twitch when I first got on here. But they got on Twitch where people watch video games, and they all of a sudden these Democratic operatives start telling young people to vote Democrat, and now they vote for Jim Crow Joe, who once again made the climate crisis worse with his imperialism, the Willow Project, him saying he had no empathy for them, expanding public drilling, him increasing the police even though Black Lives Matter, a lot of young activists supported him. Like there's so many betrayals, but the Democrat Party had tricked so many of these people into supporting and backing up the lesser two evil nonsense. So let's see if I'm missing super chats. Once again, it's Saturday, so we'll keep this for an hour. This is a fun live stream. I had to get to some stories I didn't get a chance to cover today. Hey, fam, hold on. Let me find this. We got a big show for you on Monday. Let me pull this up. Cause we have the post duopoly left show this Monday with Due Dissidents and Harlan's Media. We're gonna do a mega show. We got a lot of shows. I think Savvy playing a show too. Dude, this Monday is about to be fire, son. Yeah, for Mayday. Hold up. Yeah, I'm trying to see what Savvy had planned. Anyway, I think we announced it soon. But anyway, we're gonna have Due Dissidents on. Kit from Harlan's Media. We are the post-duopoly leftists. We're gonna talk about the state of the left, strategies for building a post-duopoly left. Should be a good show. That's on Monday. JB show tomorrow. We already got a lot of great content. Like we got a lot of great guests that's gonna be joining us next week. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys I got a Patreon and everything in the description if you guys want to support the show. Much love, fam. Have a good one.